Welcome back, kindergartners. If you came to school and got a big blob of clay like this, it's time to make our vases. So with this beautiful white wet clay that we have here, actually it's gray in color, but we call it white because once it gets fired, it's going to turn white. We're going to take this and I want you to kind of roll it into kind of a cylinder shape. It is a lumpy cylinder shape, but sort of a cylinder shape. So it's like that. And then what I want you to do is put it on a table and roll and roll. That's only 2 times. Tap, 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 and then roll again. And now it actually, tap, tap, looks like a cylinder. It's very little work that you have to do to take that really strange lumpy look of clay, or lumpy bit of clay, and make it into a cylinder. I will also caution you against playing with the clay too much. The more you play with it, and I know it's tempting, but the more that you play with the clay, the drier it gets, and it is almost impossible to make anything out of clay that's starting to really dry out. So I would say make sure that it's wet. The least that you roll, the least that you touch it, the better off and the happier you'll be while you're working with the clay. Now that I've rolled it that couple of times and tapped it out, I have a flatter bottom, a flatter top, and I have a pretty good looking cylinder. So what I'm going to do now is make it even better. I'm going to make a great cylinder. So I have some kind of deep cracks and valleys in this that I don't want to have anymore, and you can't really roll those out very well. Things start to happen to the clay, and so this is a better way to do it. I like to smooth out the sides. You can smooth out those big cracks in the top, smooth out the bottom, whatever top and bottom is for you. And now it's still a lumpy again, so I do a nice gentle final roll. That coil, I don't have to press it very hard the second few times around, and whoo, that looks gorgeous. Wow, that just happened so fast. I love that. If you have a pencil at home, that's a fantastic tool. I just happen to have a small wooden dowel in class, and what I'm going to do is now get a hole poked in the top of this because I want to change this cylinder into a bud vase. So instead of having like a tall vase where you'd put long flowers in, we're going to have a short little vase, not a tall one, a short one. And how we're going to do that is taking our pencil or taking a dowel, whatever tool that you have, and you'll push it into the clay like this. Now you don't want to push it through, so what I do is I take a measurement. I say I want to stop right there. I put my thumb there, that's my stop, and I don't move my thumb. I go like this and I push in, push in, push in, push in, and then, oh, once my thumb hits there, I know it's time to stop. And then I'm going to give it a wiggle. Don't push it down anymore, but wiggle it around so you're opening that top hole. The bottom of it is still super skinny down there, which is not what I want. But it's hard to do this with the dowel, so you can kind of move it around a little bit like this and see if you can stir that bottom open. But usually what I like to do is stick my finger in there and then kind of push out the sides. What you probably don't know yet is clay is kind of elastic, so you can stretch it out. I don't want it to be super, super, super thin, but I do want to stretch it out a bit so that bottom part becomes a pretty wide open space. And Mrs. Salmela has more of a big and adult thumb. I want it wider than my thumb down there because eventually I want to put some flowers in there and maybe even some water for my bud vase. So I'm just going to stretch and stretch. I'm not really pinching now, I'm just stretching this open more. So that's the hard thing. Pinching is more a squeeze and stretching is more of a pull. So think about what that feels like to be stretching and pulling. Now please understand, I can do this really fast because I've done this hundreds of times. You're going to take more time to do this, so if you need to pause the video, of course, pause the video, but we're just thinking about getting it stretched out like that. Awesome. Once this is done, now the time is to open it up a little bit more, and we're going to put it down like this. Boom. Now I have a flat bottom, and you can take the sides and you can push it out and stretch it out now. Make it smooth. I'm smoothing again, not pinching. I am going to pinch the top just a very, very tiny bit though. I want that edge to be fluted out. So fluted out looks like it almost looks like a flower. but I don't like how rough that is, so I'm going to add in some smooth parts here. My clay is really nice and wet, so doing this is quite easy. If you find that your clay is starting to dry out, you really should have water next to you so you can add it back to the clay so it doesn't get cracky. That's a pretty nice looking opening. I'm liking what that looks like. I like my fluted edge. It has a good bottom, and I do like my sides. So actually, if I like what I'm looking at, I'm not going to change it. If you want to change some things like on the sides, like pinch it off a little bit more, make it taller, make it straighter, it's up for you to decide. You're the artist in charge. Then I also have this box of tools to add in some decoration. So I'm just going to press in some designs on here. I love this rectangle design. I don't want a ton, but I want a little. And for sure, this would be the time that you want to think about not pressing too hard. If you press too hard in the clay like this, it's going to be harder to decorate, and I'm afraid you might poke through. So just gentle pressing is what we're trying to achieve here. I like pressing my long lines in here. You can certainly draw into the clay, but drawing also makes it a little bit harder to decorate. I do have a pointy tool here where sometimes students want to draw in designs or hearts or something like that. Maybe I'll put one on this side and one on this side. Yep, that's a good looking design. I like that. And you can add texture to it. I'm a big texture fan, partly because when I go to fire this and when I can come back and decorate it, oh man, I love the way the watercolor soaks into the clay. It looks so beautiful. And so I would totally recommend that, having more texture rather than leaving it smooth. It just looks way cooler when you're done decorating at the end. So I know about that. When you're done with this, if I was you, I would put it back in the plastic bag that looks like, that it came in. Bring it back to the school, you know, have your name on it for sure in the bag, or I can write your name on the bottom, then I know where it's coming from for sure. I like getting it wet in case something happens to it where I can help you fix it or something, but if it comes to me dry, that's fine. It's just that it's really delicate. So my students, and I'm talking to my kindergartners and my first graders, I misspoke earlier, so I apologize for that. My first graders last year couldn't make this, and that made me really sad. It's a great learning tool. It's a super fun way to start to learn how to make pinch pot, which you're going to be making in first grade. So I really want you to have this opportunity to do this and then build on it for years to come. So I'm having my my kindergartners and first graders make sure that they have the opportunity to finish this assignment. So anyway, go ahead, turn it into me, and we can go ahead and decorate some clay in the next class period. Thanks, friends. Bye.